patriot and American historian. W. Park Shannon IV has spent the majority of his academic years scanning the oldest of archived documents in the basement of the Library of Congress. One document proved to be so delicate that it disintegrated during the process of scanning it for the Library of Congress database. Fortunately for all of us, and for America, Mr. Shannon claims to have a photographic memory. Here to share the original rough draft of the Declaration of Independence, W. Park Shannon IV.
Thank you. Yes, I have a photographic memory, so I wouldn't need to have anything written down for me. But I don't want to break the format of the show, so I have it here. Formality. You are about to witness history, so listen close. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people, mostly white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, to dissolve the political bonds which have connected them to another, mostly white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, but some filthy Scotch and Irish Catholics too, we will fight the powers that be. Just do not pick our destiny, because you do not know us. You do not belong. We are not going to take it. No, we shall not take it. We are not going to take it anymore. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created somewhat the same way, with obvious differences. Who are we kidding? Just look in my backyard. That they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable, we'll just go with unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To be honest, we would settle for just one of those. We will not require all three. In fact, I expect that in the future some will pursue happiness by taking the livelihood and liberty of others. So I get it if we can't do the whole trifecta of democracy thing, but I digress. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of a small group of wealthiest among them, known as the Electoral College. Scratch that. What a horrible idea. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive and just makes a mess of the whole thing, it is the right of the people to complain about it and to institute new government that will likely continue to give the people something to complain about and not bring up around family, thus keeping them busy like so many sheep. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries, and oh, what is it? It's one of those 10-letter words. Starts with a U, means wrongdoing. You get the picture. All having in direct object the establishment of an absolute usurpations, that's the word, tyranny over these states. To prove this, let's facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused to assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forced us to spell the word color with a U, which is as ridiculous as those silly accents the British use to sound smart, even though they're just a bunch of unhappy, empty-headed, alcoholic football fans. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly and spread distasteful and opprobrious stereotypes in the form of what His Majesty would call jokes. In fact, Benjamin Franklin will attest that the French are not smelly. However, most of the Rue TV does smell like a sourdough bread bakery. And the Irish are not, all of them, drunks. Some of the children just started drinking for the first time. He has endeavored, another word for which our hands are forced to spell with the letter U, has endeavored to prevent the population of these states by transporting to us settlers of the most fugly of degree. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for their tenure of their offices and the amount of payment of their salaries. His erection of new offices has sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their, good God, I miss Martha, substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures, as well as sitting armies. Some armies began to lean. Shortly thereafter, Boston was one big red-coated improv game for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by mock trial from punishment and from any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for referring to cookies as biscuits, and insisting that we say aluminium and anti-clockwise, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent. Look, the whole Tea Party thing a few years ago was a big misunderstanding. Some tried to blame the Sons of Liberty from Boston, but come on, have you been to Philly? Painting faces and destroying things is what they do. The whole brotherly love thing is a colonial irony. We're really sorry about the tea, but we shall not eat Marmite, for it is gross. For depriving us, in many cases, of the benefit of trial by jury, for referring to vaginas as fannies, and fannies as bums, and bums as being ass out, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for driving on the wrong side of the road. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coast, burnt our towns, and totally underestimated the value of the modern practice of dentistry. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble of terms, without throwing shade of any fashion. Our repeated petitions, inter-office memos, and media posts have been answered with repeated injury and trolling of the most despicable kind. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act, may define as a tyrant, is unfit to rule free people. That said, Your Majesty may keep us New Jersey because, well, ugh. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies of war, in peace, friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, to the witness of mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today. We can't be consumed by our petty differences anymore. We shall be united in our common interests. Perhaps it's fate that today is the 4th of July, and you will once again be fighting for our freedom, not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We're fighting for the right to live, to exist. And should we win the day, The 4th of July will not be known as the day when the world declared. It will be remembered when the day when the world declared in one voice, "We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day." At least that's how I remember it. Thank you.
Well, don't I feel foolish? There is so much of our country's history of which I am ignorant of.